research facilities work, they have their own insurance set up for, while they're doing their underwater documentation, they have their own policy set up for that. But as far as anyone on land documented dredge, we shouldn't be interacting with it ourselves, so I don't foresee any significant injury in that case.
Something I think we need to look at.
Yeah, it's a perfectly valid question. We don't quite know where our liability begins and ends when people go down there without our permission, which is part of the reason for the signage.
Right.
Signage normally doesn't mean crap.
No, but the signage may not impede people from going there, but the warning may have real relevance relative to any township liabilities.
Signage is normally just a warning, and the lawyers can take care of that signage.
Well, that might be the case, but Don's point is well made. But in conversations with our insurance company on related matters, it might be sufficient to put signage up, because we have warned people, in essence, that you're entering township property and don't disturb a historic site. Should those signs go up? Our liability, though, is an open question. Jerry, if I may, what is the absolute end date for your application?
So the application is due to the National Park Service March 31st.
Okay.
My budget for the work that I want to do is due to internally to Michigan Tech on the 24th.
Okay.
We have a sponsored programs office that handles all of the internal submissions and reviews external ones. Although, if the township is the sponsor, yeah, I only have to run my budget through that. I don't have to run the full application through it.
I have a thought based on the conversations. We have a budget meeting on the 22nd of March, 2 weeks from tonight, at which we will be approving the final amendments for the current fiscal year. Given the questions that have come up and the new request of yours that we consider being the sponsor, we're going to need perhaps a few days to flush out answers to these questions.
Okay.
Would it be too late if we made our decision on the 22nd for you?
I don't think so, because like I just said, my budget for that's contracting MRAF, figuring out the labor that I'll need to do to actually combine the models, and then all of the other labor that I and anyone else would need to do on the project. That's not really part of what needs to go through. Oh, sorry, I've never done this before.
We'll give you a few more minutes.
Okay. No, I don't think that would be a problem.
Okay. And the reason is you've also indicated that permission from, we'd have to approach the Historical Society and ask them if they would be interested in us becoming, so there's some things that need to be ironed out, and Don's made some important points about liability and what have you. One of the full board had the benefit of this opportunity to hear from you.
Yep.
And it is a very interesting proposition that you've approached us with from a personal perspective. But I think collectively we need an opportunity to digest all of this and to get the questions answered that have been raised very quickly. So we're in a better position to decide on the 22nd how to proceed with this.
Okay.
If that's acceptable to the board, does that make sense?
We've got some questions yet.
Yeah. Do you have other comments that you think we need to hear at this moment?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
Yeah.
You said side sonar there, you just dropping something in there off the boat there, you would be sending divers down there, right?
We would not be sending divers. MRAF actually has an autonomously operated.
Remote control?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Flushing out some of that information and getting it from you over the next 2 weeks would also be very helpful.
Yep. And I'm available by phone, email, if anyone has any questions. I will also forward the a brief presentation that I have. Yep.
Might I suggest, based on the discussion, that we table this until the 22nd? Gather the information that sought, suggested this evening, and then make a decision at that time. Is that acceptable?
Sounds good.
Entertain a motion then to table the request until the meeting on the 22nd in Starter. Mr. Vito, you are supporting the motion. All in favor of the motion to table and make the decision on the 22nd, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign, motion carries. Thank you. If you think of anything else that you think we should have, please send it to me as expeditiously as you can. If I've got questions, I'll get in touch with you.
Excuse me.
And please, those of you that are in attendance, if I may, if you're interested or whatever, would like to know more about this, please don't hesitate to ask us. And we do have another dredge meeting, I believe, scheduled for the 24th.
Excuse me.
The 24th of this month at 1 o'clock. It's a Friday, I believe. Am I correct in that? I'm looking at Jim.
Yes, 24th.
24th. So we have a meeting if you're interested in what we're up to and what we've been discussing. So thank you for your participation with that part, Jerry. Thank you very much for coming. You're more than welcome to stick around. Also, given your schedule, if you'd like to get up and leave, please do. Thank you. That takes care of item B under new business. Back to our agenda, we're up to reports, are we not? Sure. In your packet, you should find a report from the assessor, from our.
Before you move past that, I want to, just highlight what she's talking about with the GIS mapping. Take a look at that because she's proposing that we go out on our own, rather than, to get an accurate, mapping done. She goes into it quite a bit, but the total, for us to do that is like 4,800. And she talks about like the AMR requirements and what the state is requiring. And I don't anticipate we're gonna have a discussion about this. It's probably gonna be next fiscal year budget, I would imagine,
It
but
might be something to discuss on the 22nd, and maybe make a decision
we
at
have
that
to
time.
talk about this, yeah.
Okay.
That's it. I just wanted to make sure everybody,
So
Pays
again,
attention.
an item for further discussion on the 22nd
Mhm.
as part of the budget for next year.
mhm.
Ms. Earhart's report is there, Mr. Reed's report is in your packet. Actionable items we have not already addressed that came up from the water board, Mr.
Oh, wow.
You took the recommendations on the bills and the vouchers.
Yes, yeah, we didn't have anything.
No actionable items up from the utility board meeting. The Dalby Fire Department report is in there, Dalby First Responders, Tamarack City Fire Department report is in there. Ron, anything you'd like to add relative to the fire department?
We're doing fine.
Okay.
We're doing a little bit so
Mr.
far.
Klein, anything you'd like to add relative to Tamarack City? Thank you. Tamarack City Utility Board information is in there. Attached to the back of your information is the new rate chart for Tamarack City relative to sewer. You have agenda and related materials, the minutes, but you also have in your report the rather significant increase in the sewer rate for Tamarack City residents from the Torch Lake Sewage Authority. You have the Torch Lake Sewage Authority report in your packet as well. Cognizant of the time, I will move briskly through my report. It'll be oral, and I keep saying, I won't give myself a time limit, but I'll try to do it single digits this time. Vet honor roll, Odgers and I met with Joe up at the Veterans Office earlier today to talk about criteria for inclusion on the Township honor roll. That honor roll is now up names are not on it yet at the ball field. An updated draft of the criteria, you have one in your packet, but an update to that will be coming in the next day or two and available for review prior to our meeting on the 22nd. I know that a considerable amount of money has been raised, if you will, from the private sector for the honor roll. We made a commitment to assist if it was necessary. I'm not sure how much of what we committed in this fiscal year will be necessary, if any at all, to address this current year costs. The board may want to consider as part of next year's budget retaining that allocation and moving forward for other needs there. Had a number of conversations over the last month about the snowmobile trail with emphasis on the property owned by Mr. Burkhardt on Mill Site relative to pushing the trail through. There's a rather substantial request for funding from him that has been nominally reviewed and discussed with people such as Matt Torino at the DNR. Had a chance to talk with both Mr. Burkhardt and Mr. Torino this week, and both are still interested, one in selling and the other in making a purchase, but let's say that there is a difference between the asking price for the property and the potential for available cash. But we're interested in pursuing, from a joint standpoint, with the board's understanding and permission, a joint offer that would require an appraisal of the property prior to putting figures together. I did talk with our assessor about an appraisal. She did not think it would be more than a few to several $100s. That would be over and above what we've already paid for the survey. I think it would be money well invested, so we would have a target figure for the property that's being offered for our consideration to complete the trail, to have that appraisal in hand, and then work from that figure to figure out value for that trail, both real and community-wide relative to the trail opening again, going down the road, but,
Question for you,
please.
is that not an old railroad grade? The property we're looking at buying from Tony, is that not an old railroad grade?
It may very well be.
Because then he can't sell it, he should have the right to use it.
Well, let's say that it's rather complicated up there, who owns it, and the survey and even the DNR believe who is the, if you will, the recipient of the old railroad grade. Much of the old DNR property is now under pavement in Tamarack City that took place decades ago, from my understanding. It is really part of where all the old railroad grade was too, or at least railroad property. So we
That's
We have a
different.
hodgepodge.
It's, you know, it's like, it's no different than us running a water line to Tamarack. We have to use the railroad grade, do we not? If that happens.
Yes, but the railroad grade either, I don't know its status, I don't know if it was ever abandoned, it was ever acquired, but it does appear from the survey we had conducted that the railroad grade that the old trail, snowmobile trail ran on, is inside Tony Burkhardt's property boundary.
But he can't own that.
Well, he does own it according to everybody that I've talked to relative to the property. Now, if the railroad grade was abandoned at one time and then sold,
Yeah, but
then he could, but, I'm not finding any documentation, nor are our surveyors or anybody else we're talking to, and the maps that I've gotten internally in a conversation with the assessor, it's his property.
another question.
Probably another one I can't really answer, but fire away.
I just don't, there's snowmobile trails everywhere. And for a while, sometimes they have to use the side of the road to get to the next trail. So I don't know why we can't just end it at the dump road. Let us start again on Tamarack Hill, and let them use that little stretch of road to go there. Rather than costing us thousands of dollars
Yeah, well-
to buy a piece of land.
Well, let's say that every conceivable option that people have thought of, including running down, what is that, amygdaloid up there? Running down the side of the street that's in the easement or right-of-way, but we got utility poles in there.
I'm not talking there, I'm talking right down the road.
Down the road itself?
Yeah. We do it all the time, all over.
I that has not been
I
suggested.
mean, it's just something we could.
Well, I can raise the
look at.
question
Yeah.
with whether or not we would have the latitude from the road commission to use their road to run the
I
snowmobile.
mean, I'm sure they don't. anywhere
I gotta
else.
meet with them next
Just
week.
know it's
about our-
used.
Ms. Gardner, may I impose upon you to ask the question if we could use the street up there to run the snowmobile trail?
Mhm.
I'll ask, I gotta meet with,
Like I said, I know it's done everywhere else, and I just.
in a lot of places.
It seems like we're spending a lot of money for,
Well, we haven't spent, we're under 5,000 in our allocation so far, and we got an idea where we're going, and if it ever comes to pass, the hope was we'd get reimbursed at least in large part.
no one wants that trail open more than I do, but I just.
I know,
I see a guy making all kinds of money out of it.
well, I understand your sentiment as well. Not arguing with you either.
Mark,
Okay, just
Sorry,
something.
Well,
just a quick question.
generally speaking, but with the board's permission, can we entertain a question from Mr.
When I bought
Sil?
my property on a hill, there used to be a road that ran down. And at first they told me, well, that belongs to Fulton County Road Commission, that I couldn't buy the property there. Well, the lawyer did research and he found out in 1947, there was a thing at the courthouse showed that they abandoned that road. So I was able to buy the property on both sides. But I didn't want a road going right in front of my house still.
Well, I just.
But it took some research to
I
find
never heard
it.
of
They
abandoning
abandoned the
the old railroad
property.
bed.
Wouldn't they show
Yeah.
at the courthouse that they abandoned it there?
Well, the road is actually over what belongs to the DNR. The county, some time ago, road commission allegedly, apparently, notice I'm qualifying all of this because I really don't know the answer, but my understanding is, based on conversations, is where Amygdaloid Street is paved, behind the old mill site is actually DNR right-of-way. Part of the old railroad grade and whatever else they got up there back in the day, the grade was abandoned, assuming it was indeed at some time abandoned. DNR said that's ours. The road commission is saying it's Amygdaloid Street, and we've got a right-of-way that runs 33 feet off center in both directions. That goes down over the slope, covered by snow removal issues in the winter time.
I just can't believe it's abandoned, because that's what that whole snowmobile trail is back there, is the old railroad bed.
Well, it is, but much of it is in either the possession of MDOT or the DNR, depending on where you are on the trail. So I'll continue to
Just
pursue
brought it
this,
up.
Don, I feel like I'm falling down rabbit holes all day. We're operating good faith, and Tony's interested in selling it to us, but the price is,
Oh, that's right. I
shall we
know.
say, in play right now.
I know what his
And
original price was, that's why I'm saying.
I'm learning more about things I've never heard of before, and there are times where I walk out of a meeting scratching my head and going, 5 things I never even thought of have come up. How do we respond to this? So, but I'll pursue it.
Okay.
Hopefully before our meeting on the 22nd. But thank you for the comments, the input, and Don, your thoughts and ideas. But an appraisal is something I intend to move forward with. I don't think it necessitates board action, because it isn't gonna cost that much. We've gotta know what the property's worth in that context. We're looking at an investment of a few to several $100 at the most. And that's probably the last thing that I'm gonna suggest we spend money on, unless we come to a resolution here relative to the trail. Beaver dams, I've talked with Jim Turlock recently. There doesn't appear to be any activity down by Hungarian Creek relative to beavers moving around. He monitors it weekly and did indicate that we do have 2 dams down there, and does plan to put traps out as soon as it begins to open up. We are on a regular basis monitoring all the ditches and all the streams, either in Dollar Bay or in this case, Hungarian Falls Creek, because of ice buildup. But apparently water's flowing under the ice surface pretty freely in Tamarack City right now, but the ice is a little high,
It's diminished a little bit.
Yeah.
Cool.
but it's moving underneath the ice, so.
Oh,
The dams were opened up last fall, so. Manually, not mechanically, so we could go in there with hand tools, and that's what Jim did. We received an email, property not too far from the auto repair shop up on M26 is apparently owned by a company that's interested in putting a Dollar General into that area, the store. They're forwarded a request generally about the Clark plot that shows roadways and alleys in there, and is forwarding, and they are forwarding additional information on behalf of the company relative to their desire to put up a Dollar General store there. So, very preliminary, but I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention at tonight's meeting. Board of Review is now meeting. Mr. Greb is here. He was re-elected yesterday as chairman of the Board of Review. The organizational meeting has taken place. We begin in earnest with petition review Monday afternoon at 2 p.m., I believe.
Right.
Meetings next week are Monday, 2 to 5, and 6 in the evening to 9 p.m. And then again on Thursday from, I believe, 9 a.m. until noon, and 1 p.m. until 4. If the board can conclude all of its required necessary activities on the 16th, there will not be a meeting the following week. If there is a need for one, there will be a follow-up meeting the following week to conclude all of the board's business. That would, I believe, be the week of the 20th. So 13th is a 6-hour day. That's Monday the 13th and Thursday the 16th. Spring ditching, I made reference to. I've been in contact with Webben Construction. They've taken care of a couple of emergencies here in Dollar Bay in recent times, and are sending an estimate to do work previously done by Julio Construction. Tony Julio has availed himself to us and to whomever we retain to do this, to identifying where he would do ditching in the spring here in Dollar Bay to mitigate the runoff and what have you. Normally in what are referred to, at least internally, as the west and east ditches, I should say. So, most notable one is the one out by the school that runs through the Julio property and out by the Coast Guard station. Baseball field grant update. We've run into a little bit of a glitch with the Major League Youth Foundation, if I'm remembering the name correctly. They are favorably inclined towards our grant, but there are some insurance liability questions that we still don't have answers to. It's an open-ended grant, so there's not a timeline on it, but I've been working with Mr. Mark Hunyola at the Hunyola Insurance Agency, trying to get documentation of some type that we hope will answer the questions that Major League Baseball Foundation has about any potential liability that they might incur should something happen at the field after the work we're going to do with their money is completed. I'm not quite sure how that would be of consequence to them, but I'm waiting to hear from Mark, so I don't want to venture too far in that direction. But there is a second grant that, this grant application on behalf of the township was submitted, and deserves the lion's share of the credit by Leon Sutherland, the Lake London High School baseball coach. He has also submitted a letter of intent to apply to the Portage Health Foundation, and been told that he should go forward with the grant application, that what he had provided them in, relative to preliminary information was very sound and very well received. He and I exchanged phone messages today, but did not talk with each other. Hopefully I'll hear from him before the weekend and get an update on the Portage Health Foundation application. Semco Gas Company has requested information about our summer work projects here in the Dollar Bay area. I'm waiting to get the agreements back from the Road Commission on the proposals we put in relative to use of township money, Road Commission match, and the county ARPA money. Most notably, off the top of my head, are Maple and Oneiko Streets in Precinct 1, I believe are on the schedule for this year, and though I don't have it in front of me, and completing Store Street up in Precinct 4, from where we ended 2 years ago to where the gravel portion that links Store with Millionaire Street begins. In precinct 2, there are a number of streets, most notably Lake and Fur, that are on the list. They're the two heavily traveled streets west of Maine, with Lake getting a lot of traffic. The intent is to run well over 1,000 feet on Lake, down to where there's relatively new blacktop by the ice rink, to do a somewhat shorter but quite lengthy part of First Street. We've also got Elm here, but we've got kind of a hold on Elm until we figure out what we're doing with goosenecks during this construction season, relative to the gooseneck replacement lead pipe issue here in Dollar Bay. We'll let Semco know once we get the agreements where we intend to work, particularly here in Dollar Bay, and they'll probably try to sync up with us, so they're not tearing up something that we've just done. And we'll work in concert, I'm sure, with the road commission. I did have the dredge on this with signage, but everyone that's here was present when Perry was here. There's no need for me to repeat what's already taken place. We're still looking for a representative from the township on the Torch Lake Sewage Authority. There is a question that I raised with our attorney. He reminded me he also represents the Torch Lake Sewage Authority. So the only questions I'm asking him are very general ones. One question that I'm hopeful he will be able to answer is that, generally speaking, we have appointed people from Tamarack City to the Torch Lake Sewage Authority Board because they're affected by board's decisions down there relative to sewer rates. And you may recall me mentioning earlier that the rate went up rather substantially from last year to this, very recently for residents of Tamarack City for wastewater. But the second question that I asked was, what is the possibility of appointing perhaps a member of the township board, should there be interest, township board level, to that authority on behalf of the township? And I don't have an answer to that. So it's an open-ended application at this moment, but I suspect the board will want to fill that position ideally at its April meeting scheduled for, I believe, the 12th of April. So people interested in that need to put in a formal letter. We're not precluded from accepting applications from people anywhere in the township, but under the past is precedent, the representatives to that board come from the Tamarack City area. It's the only part of the township precinct 1 that's affected by the sewage authority's activities and their rates. The last thing I have on my agenda is something that Krista has already addressed. Our new county commissioner, Joel Kiernan, has asked for a copy of our schedule, and it's my intent to invite him formally to a future member of the township board. So, just kind of a heads up there. He's the former, I believe, Schoolcraft Township supervisor. Am I right in that? I think so. He's now our county commissioner. And that is all that I have. Any questions of me? Thank you very much for your patience and your participation. Moving on to unfinished business, budget amendments. Budget amendments will be addressed fully at our meeting on the 22nd. Stated at the previous meeting, there's been a substantial update in recent days of our financial situation, with all of our revenue now caught up through, I believe it's the 6th or 7th of March.
Through, yeah, yesterday.
So I'm actually dealing with more contemporary figures than are in tonight's packet, because it runs only through the month of February. And I'll point out one thing of note and why there's a delay. For the last couple of months working at the figures, not knowing where we stood with, for example, revenue sharing, we had budgeted $192,000, I believe, in revenue sharing in the township budget, based on the historic allocation and the anticipated projection for the year. We were talking a day or so ago about, we've got 100,000 in only, and you had indicated a deposit, I'm talking to Krista, of course, deposit of about 33,000. You said, that doesn't sound right, and you said, I'm gonna go back and check. And when I came in this morning, she'd gone back and checked, and the report showed something in the neighborhood of $206,000 actually coming in revenue sharing this year. I'm going, holy smokes, that's $14,000 greater than our projection. So we've got more revenue sharing. We're catching up. Those of you in attendance at our last meeting know that we were a bit behind in getting all of our deposits in and everything caught up. Dominique has been putting in some extra time. Krista's been putting in a lot of extra time, catching us up, and we hope to have all of the payments that have been made relative to taxes deposited ideally by week's end, if not early next week, which means we'll have a clearer picture when we do our amendment as to how much we'll have in the way of receipts for 22-23 winter taxes, which also go to support the township. So a lot of the preliminary work is done, moving line items around, but you gotta make sure there's revenue there to support it. Now I'm in a position to offer to the board much more comprehensive amendments that will also address revenue streams. And at this moment, if the trend holds, we'll actually have surpluses in all three major budgets. So something that is nice to see as we're approaching a new fiscal year. Road projects I've alluded to already. Does anybody on the board or in all candor in the audience have any questions about any of this? I did reference them during my report. Five-year rec plan. We have an amended version of the recreation plan, and I know that there's hope that the Township Board will take action and approve the plan this evening. The representative from Wookers here to offer us any additional information or respond to questions.
Sure.
Correct? I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name at the outset.
I'm Evan Lemise.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I
Yeah.
apologize for not asking earlier.
No problem.
Do you have anything that you'd like to share with the board relative to the current draft of the plan, which is an amended draft based on feedback from the hearing?
I don't have much else besides the comments and changes that you guys requested last time have been implemented in the new draft. And I just received an estimate from the resurfacing of the ice rink from Krista, which I haven't obviously put in yet, but I will change it once I get time. So any other changes that you guys have, I'm happy to make those for the final draft.
If we did it in maybe 25,000 for fencing at the dog park.
Sure, yeah, I have that noted. Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions?
I never did it this meeting. I'm looking at it for the first time. Doesn't, I don't know if she changed that description in the town.
The direction description?
Yeah, I think it was the, Tamarack Mill Park. The old description was, didn't say anything, you know, but the previous year had a lot better explanation of it.
I believe we changed it.
I think there was a change in the description based on the previous plan's description. And there was a identification of surrounding townships that
It's in the.
Yeah,
indicated was
one of the.
they're actually east and west versus west and east or something.
Right, right.
This is still the old one, that hasn't changed.
For which description?
Tamarack Mill Park.
Okay.
This sounds like all we've done to it since 2004 is on a sidewalk.
What are the additional changes that have been made to the park?
Oh, God. There's a basketball park, there's a playground, there's a pavilion.
It had it almost entirely how they wanted it worded in our previous.
In the
It's in the
2018
previous
one?
rec
Yeah, the 18 to 22 one
Right,
had
that
a
was a
a
part.
really
Oh.
thorough, comprehensive
I
description.
suggested to her to take that description and
And put it into
put
this
it
one.
into this.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll do that.
Thanks, Don.
Yeah, and I did notice you missed a couple things, but.
There's,
And we can
this is
change
being
it.
submitted
So
when,
that's what I figured, because we wanted those
if
content.
we approve this tonight as a working draft, when will it be submitted to the DNR?
I'm not sure, that'd be a question for Rachel.
Okay, I believe it's the latter part of the month, is it not?
Yeah,
That would give us a chance to review this and provide additional input?
sure,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
We'll make sure that Mr. Wareham and other members.
Yeah, I could get the changes at this meeting, like, by early next week.
I thought she was gonna send us a link with stuff.
She did, she sent it to me and I've
Oh,
been
okay.
so
I was
swamped, I
trying to
just
watch
checked
it
my,
for
no, I
it.
did, I sent it this afternoon.
If we still have a week or so
And I posted it
to
on.
get
my-
material to, bear with us and we'll do
Sure.
that, but
Okay.
can we, approve the plan as submitted with the understanding that we will continue to submit changes
yeah.
prior to its
She
submission?
said we could change it as it
Yeah.
went anyway, so.
No problem, yeah.
Any additional comments, concerns, questions about the draft Osceola Township five-year recreation plan?
Are we gonna adopt it tonight?
That would be my hope, that we would pass a resolution to adopt the
Current
plan.
deadline, she needed it.
Do you have a resolution that you'd
I
like
do,
to
but
read?
it's not correct, cause it was for the last meeting.
Okay. Can you make the necessary
yeah.
changes and?
Osceola Township five-year recreation plan, 2023-27. Whereas the Osceola Township Board has undertaken a planning process to determine the recreation and natural resource conservation needs and desires of its residents during a five-year period covering the years 2023 through 2027. And whereas the Osceola Township Board began the process of developing a community recreation plan in accordance with the most recent guidelines developed by the Department of Natural Resources and made available to local communities. And whereas residents of Osceola Township were provided with a well-advertised opportunity during the development of the draft plan to express opinions, ask questions, and discuss all aspects of the recreation plan. And whereas the public was given a well-advertised opportunity and reasonable accommodations to review the draft plan for a period of at least 30 days. And whereas a public hearing was held on February 22nd, 2023 at the Township Hall to provide an opportunity for all residents of the planning area to express opinions, ask questions, and discuss all aspects of the Osceola Township five-year recreation plan 23-27. And whereas the Osceola Township Board has developed the plan as a guideline for improving recreation and enhancing natural resource conservation for the Osceola Township. And whereas the public hearing, the Osceola Township Board voted to adopt said Osceola Township five-year recreation plan 2023-27. Now therefore be it resolved, the Osceola Township Board hereby adopts the Osceola Township five-year recreation plan 2023-2027. That's it.
Thank you very much for reading that for everyone's benefit.
If I remember right, when we were discussing that, she said even though this is the 23 to 27 plan, the 17 to 22 plan is still in effect. We can still
All
do
the
things
plans are
off
still
that.
relevant.
Okay,
Mhm.
that's what I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure of that, okay.
This is sort of, if I made on a stacking of the
Yep,
plans.
update, that's fine.
Yep.
Okay.
Any additional comments, questions, concerns? Anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, just to say that the stacking the plans is just so we can continue
Right.
applying for grants and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's, I understand.
But anything else?
Do I have a motion to adopt the resolution as read and to be amended to update?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion and support to adopt the resolution as is, and to amend and update. Is there any further discussion on the motion to accept the resolution and approve the five-year recreation plan? Hearing none, roll call vote please, Ms. Gardner?
Mr. Wareham,
Yes.
Mr. Huckrow,
Yes.
I vote yes, so 3 yes and 2 absent.
The motion carries 3-0 with 2 absent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank everyone, please, for their effort, and we'll get updated and or amendments to you as expeditiously as possible to correct the plan in accordance with the resolution and the input tonight, so.
Okay,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
being here,
Sure.
very much appreciate it. Water project, plan update, there's a written report from Mr. Kiernan in your packet. early stages, so I'm sure the April meeting will have much more detail. We did put the MTA, Michigan Township Association Spring Conference on the agenda. There had been some interest in going, but no one has indicated a desire or an ability to go in recent days around the office. And as much as I love Traverse City in the springtime, there's work that needs to be done here, and I think that's a higher priority than enjoying the resort. Well, if I'd never been there before, to be very forthright, I would love to go, but it was a common meeting place in the old days, in a former life and previous position, so. And my golf game isn't up to the standard necessary to play the course. Thank you for letting me digress, so. A fair summation that there's just so much going on right now, and
It's hard enough to miss one day, much less a whole week.
maybe next time.
Yeah.
Table business, might I suggest to the board that we leave the Elm Avenue restoration in its table status. We figure out what we're doing with goosenecks and the grant that we're working on with DP Engineering and everything else. No objection to the, just leave it, thank you. New business, in your packet, copies of the water boards and the township board meeting schedule. We need to formally adopt the meeting schedule on behalf of the township tonight. Please take a quick look at it if you've not already done so. And I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting schedule plan as presented. Mr. Wareham, is there support?
I'll support.
The motion and support to approve the meeting schedule as presented. Any suggested changes? Any issues with holidays or the like?
I went through and tried to make sure they weren't falling on any. The only one I questioned was July 5th for the Tamarack City utility. And then the February, March in 24, we might need to push up a week depending on when the primary election's gonna be held, but it's still going through the legislature, so I don't have a date.
Ample time to make adjustments.
Right, and I mean, we can change it as long as we give notice.
Any additional comment? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the meeting schedule as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We have a meeting schedule for the coming fiscal year. We've also already addressed item B under new business. We have ended the business portion of our meeting. There is a final opportunity for public comment. If anyone would like to offer comment for the board's consideration, please identify yourself and you'll have up to 3 minutes once you begin talking. Anybody here interested in offering comment for the board's consideration?
Yeah, Steve Flynn. Several things. Start with township buying property for the DNR. That's ludicrous. The township has got that much money, they can throw it away on somebody else's property for a state entity for a snowmobile trail that they can figure out their own way where to put it. That is ridiculous. Number two, the dredge. This whole thing is always doing to enable the children from Michigan Tech to come down there and graffiti it. It's a matter of time, somebody gets hurt, somebody dies, they set it on fire. Fire chief, fire department, by the way, is responsible for that place. And I've been there 3 times in my life, I don't wanna go there again. Okay, that's what it amounts to, you're enabling people to go out there and just do destruction, trespass, whatever. You wanna do something, tell them to dredge off your property. That's the third one. Oh, the property across from the dredge. We have a township ordinance as far as blight, correct? That ain't blight, nothing is. The dredge is blight enough. And all that is, that's the parking lot, so they can go and look at the dredge and cross the highway. 2 years ago, a motorcyclist was injured there because it was some kind of dredge festival, parked to both sides of the highway in that parking lot, and somebody pulled out in front of a motorcycle. He went down, he got injured. All is enabling another accident. That's a state right away they're parking, it's not parking zone there. That's private parking on across the street that they shouldn't be parking in, because none of the previous township boards for like, would do anything about it. So Company in California owns that property. And, you know, state come along and spend how much money on remediating the asbestos in there? Why? There shouldn't be any man there. How much asbestos on a dredge? The township's getting involved in a bunch of stuff with that dredge that they don't need to do, and that's all I got to say about that. Cost my money.
You still have about
That's fine.
36 seconds. Thank you for your input. Would anybody else like to offer comment for the board's consideration at this time before a motion to adjourn?
Jim Spence, it's actually two questions rather than a comment. Will the recreation plan be posted on the website? I looked yesterday and the revision wasn't there. Will this revise?
It's on there now,
With the appendices?
when we get the new one, yeah. It's out there like that right now.
Oh, it
On the
is,
website.
okay, I didn't check today, I looked
Yeah.
yesterday. Okay, great, thank you. And the second question is, in the recreation plan, a lot of the, most of the activity is grant dependent. What is the process in the township targeting which projects to undertake, and then who is looking for the grants that might be applicable to those projects? That's my question.
Interesting question that doesn't have a hard and fast answer at this moment. It is, if I may, it's been more what grants we're made aware of and that others are asking us to engage in, and when opportunities present themselves. But I don't have anything more definitive than that from my perspective.
Does Woodbury provide that service to the townships? That is, the availability of grants that might be of interest to them?
Yeah, I think we have some like greater insight on some of those, but again, like a lot of it is like what comes up and what we hear about, what we get sent from others.
So it's mostly inquiry from the townships to Woodbury? Is there a grant available for such and such a process? Or is there a downward process where someone in Woodbury informs the townships, you have this in your rec plan, this grant is now open for proposals? Does it work that way too?
No, I'm not sure, this is my first
Sometimes.
rec plan working on it, so, yeah.
We get emails from them sometimes.
Okay.
And we have, there's like so many grant portals that we have to be part of, and a lot of the grant opportunities come through there too. MTA, Michigan Township Association, is another good resource at kind of compiling availability of grants and sending it. So, I mean, we do hear, but Woodbury has sent us information in the past as well.
My only response would be to add another layer to it, if you'll indulge me for a few seconds, and that is that Fulton County has a recreation authority, and Osceola Township joined right at the very beginning of this. And it meets now on a quarterly basis and is looking for grant opportunities across the entire county. And we're part of that discussion, primarily, again, with recreation focus. But other grant opportunities, such as the plan for road work with the road commission and the county, came to our attention as a result of an initiative from the road commission. And we jumped on board to get $2 for every one that we're putting into the mix. So as they present themselves and we're made aware of them, we participate. Some we pursue, when we learn of them, others are brought to us for our consideration. But your question can only be answered in that limited way.
That's great.
So,
And actually, the more our partnerships grow, like with Leon, I mean, we wouldn't have known
Yeah.
anything about a lot of those baseball
Yeah.
grants, but, you know, so the more partnerships we begin to develop, we find out about a lot more. And like, you know, the guy from Michigan Tech, you know, just different things like that.
Evan Lanise. I've been in discussions with Krista about a project that I'm working on. I've seen the need for a community compost for Houghton County. All of the food waste in the area now is shipped to the landfill unless it's processed in someone's backyard. And farmers are driving all the way to Wisconsin to get their soil. So see an opportunity there to, support our local food systems and divert some of our waste, extend the life of our landfill, etc. I've reached out to a lot of different cities and townships looking for land. A lot of them have been interested, but haven't really had the exact space to do so. And Krista has found a very ideal location in Osceola Township, which has gotten me pretty excited. So I'm going to be running the project through Whoopiter to try to get some funding from Eagle through the state to pilot the program. And I'm currently applying for what's called the I2P3 program through Eagle Next Cycle, which provides funding connections, project assistance, and the like to help push the project forward, which I'm excited about. And as part of that program, it would be helpful to get a letter of support from Osceola Township, although it's not required. So I just wanted to inquire about that.
Anything else? Right on time.
All right.
Anyone else?
It was a board's decision on the location too, just, I was the communicator, but we discussed it at the previous meeting and
Oh, you did?
everybody.
Okay.
Mhm.
Cool, that's exciting. Cool.
Where is it?
That's a great idea.
The electric park location,
Oh,
we own like, I don't even know how many acres, but we only need so much space and the space we're looking at is cleared out already and so
Good idea.
we'll look at it when we spring.
Yeah, that's great.
Great.
Good, thanks for looking at it.
Where is the electric
Good,
park?
are you public comment? You can, please identify yourself and.
I'm Cindy Barth behind the camera. Where is the electric park?
Up off of US 41 in Osceola Township. There is a sign indicating Electric Park Road, south of Osceola, south of Calumet, on US 41 west. So as you're going north on 41, when you cross into Osceola Township, within a mile of crossing the township line, there will be a road off to the west called Electric Park Road. And follow it, it's a dirt road for the most part, and the old electric park is back in that area in Osceola Township. And this is the amusement recreation area from 100 years ago.
Pictures up there.
So is it past the airport road?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
past the Oneco Road. As you drive up 41, it's about 2 miles approximately south of Calumet, Lorium area. About 1.5 miles south of the state police post, approximately, in Osceola Township. West, so if you're northbound, it's on your left. There's a standard street sign up that says Electric Park Road. I'm amazed I knew that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And anything else? Anybody else that would like to offer comment for the board's consideration? Thank you very much. We'll close the second public comment session. Appreciate everyone's input tonight. Looking at board members, is there anything else we need to discuss from your perspective? Please, Ms. Garza.
If we're gonna do a letter of support, for the community compost project, do we need a motion to do that? Do we wanna discuss that?
How quickly do you need it?
End of March.
Can you draft one for our meeting on the 22nd?
Mm-hmm.
Acceptable? Take action.
Sounds good.
looks like a special meeting around, our budget for next year, and a lot of issues were addressed at that time as well, so.
Thank you.
Is that acceptable, Ms. Gardner? Anything else for the board's consideration at this time, board members? Hearing none, a motion to adjourn is in order.
Back to six.
Mr. Ware moves, Ms. Gardner supports the motion to adjourn. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We stand adjourned.